Exactly how slovenly can you get? You may go without a shower for a week, skip brushing your teeth for a month, and be unable to clean your home for an entire week. But could you ever bring yourself to use a deodorant made from the paste of rotten eggs? Isn't that dirty? You may think it's unhygienic at its worst, but it is what it is. It's impossible to imagine surviving the ancient Egyptians' unsanitary conditions. Stay tuned, as in just a few minutes, we will expose the dirtiest practices of ancient Egyptians. Female physicians. At a time when women were seen as objects and didn't have much freedom, the Egyptians were different from other societies because educated women could study any subject they wanted. Neurosurgery was the main field that women doctors went into, and this field in particular used a lot of strange mixtures that are both interesting and hard to explain. For example, the Egyptians used barley and emmer to make the first known pregnancy test. They would put a small amount of the woman's urine on the grains every day. If neither the barley nor the emmer grew, that meant that the woman was not pregnant. Modern science has shown that the test worked well because the urine of non-pregnant women stopped the growth. Deodorants reduced body odor. Because they did not have access to deodorants like Secret, ancient Egyptians relied on plants and other naturally occurring compounds to mask the smell of their sweat and body odor. They made a paste by grinding herbs, flowers, and roots together, and then they mixed that paste with oil to form a cream that they applied to their armpits. Historians uncovered recipes for deodorant substances that called for nuts, broken tortoiseshell, and ostrich eggs, in addition to mixes of porridge and resin. Although most deodorants were applied to the underarm, some women also mixed fragrances into wax and applied it to their scalps. This was a common practice. The perfume was diffused into the air in a manner similar to that of an early kind of aromatherapy when the sun and heat melted the wax. Even while most of these early deodorants had any sort of scent, some of the formulas called for spices like cinnamon or frankincense to impart a nice aroma. Lice prevention shaved heads. Ancient Egyptians endured such excruciating pain at the hands of parasites like lice that they resorted to extreme ways to eradicate the bugs from their bodies. People would use knives, razors, and tweezers to shave off all their hair in an effort to reduce the number of possible habitats for lice. After shaving their heads, they covered the bald spots with wigs made of actual human or horsehair. Those who were wealthy typically had multiple wardrobe options that they could switch between depending on the occasion. It would not be difficult to dispose of the wig in the event that it became infested with lice. Wigs were used not only for fashion but also as a means of thermal regulation during hot weather. In contrast, individuals of the lower classes frequently wore head coverings rather than wigs or fashioned papyrus into things that resembled wigs. This was due to the fact that those with less money were unable to acquire the good wigs. In spite of these measures, it appears that no one was able to totally avoid the problem. Researchers have found some mummies infected with lice. Mints and chewed herbs kept breath fresh. Because the ancient Egyptians placed a high value on having clean breath, they made it a point to ensure that they had ready access to a variety of techniques that might mask or eliminate foul breath. They did this frequently throughout the day and after meals, chewing on herbs like barley. Additionally, Egyptians utilized something akin to breath mints, which they either produced on their own or acquired already manufactured. Cashews and pine seeds were blended with a variety of fragrant spices and herbs, including as cinnamon and frankincense, to make the mints. After the ingredients were combined using heat to produce candy, honey served as the glue that held everything together. Some of the dishes that were discovered in ancient Egyptian households are thought by historians to have been candy dishes that were used to keep these mints. Men circumcised for hygiene. In ancient Egyptian culture, there are several historical examples of circumcision, including sculptures and images in the walls of tombs. Some of these representations can be found in the past. Some historians feel that the need for cleanliness was the original motivation behind this practice, despite the fact that it may have been maintained for other reasons. Inscriptions that were discovered in temples and tombs led experts to think that uncircumcised men were barred from entering the structures because they were considered to be impure. Over time, the custom morphed into rites that involved many aspects of religious belief. While only men were subjected to circumcision, women were subjected to other rituals intended to maintain their purity and sexual health. Many women established the habit of removing their pubic hair, either by shaving or by experimenting with alternative natural types of hair removal. The most common method of pubic hair removal is electrolysis. Women had the belief that partaking in this ritual helped them ward off fleas and lice, in addition to preparing them for intimate encounters. Since only the wealthy had toilets, people relied outside. The seats of many of the commodes that were owned by rich Egyptians were constructed out of limestone. Someone was tasked with the unenviable task of emptying the container that the stone was sitting on, which was filled with sand. Those who were unable to pay for such pleasures were forced to defecate in the open air, most commonly in a hole that they dug in the ground. In spite of the fact that people drank from it, bathed in it, and washed their clothes in this water, a significant portion of the population relied on the Nile as their primary source of sanitation. Due to the absence of a sewage infrastructure in ancient Egypt, trash and other forms of garbage frequently ended up in pits, open fields, or canals. This led to the contamination of the river and the fields where people cultivated their food. In spite of the Egyptians' best attempts to maintain a clean environment, sickness caused by filthy surroundings as well as vermin, parasites, and insects claimed a significant number of lives each year. For health and beauty, cosmetics were used daily. Ancient Egyptian men and women used cosmetics because of the additional benefits they brought in addition to the enhancement of their appearance. People would start by applying eyeshadow, mascara, and eyeliner after first softening their skin with oils and then applying face treatments made of honey or aloe. Eyeliner was popular not just as a beauty statement, but also as a way to protect one's eyes from the brightness of the sun and to ward off flies. People would take natural components such as malachite and galena and grind them into a powder. The powder would then be combined with fat to make a cream, and the finished cosmetics would be stored in jars. While those of higher social standing had access to ornate jars crafted from high-quality materials, those of lesser social standing constructed cosmetics containers out of less expensive and more straightforward materials. Laxatives and enemas cleansed them. The ancient Egyptians were fascinated by the human body and endeavored to get a deeper understanding of how to maintain good health as seen by the intricate mummification method they used. Despite the fact that many physicians also served in the role of priests and frequently blamed illnesses on having offended the gods, physicians also practiced medicine. They advocated the consumption of purgatives and laxatives as a means to facilitate intestinal cleansing. Laxative use was common among Egyptians and was recommended for 3 days out of every month as a preventative measure against illness. Even when they were trying to treat diarrhea, they used castor oil as a laxative to encourage waste to be expelled from the body. Additionally, Egyptians used proto-proctologists to check their anuses and utilized enemas as a method for cleansing the interior of their bodies. Only the rich had indoor baths. The typical Egyptian cleaned themselves on a daily basis by taking a bath or shower. However, the manner in which they did so varied according to their social level. The dwellings of the wealthiest Egyptians typically had a room or rooms dedicated to bathing. The bathers would stand on a stone slab while their attendants poured water from the Nile into basins or jugs and poured it over them. The water came from the Nile, and since many people did not wear shoes during this time period, certain homes in the upper classes were equipped with foot baths constructed of stone, wood, or ceramic that were used to clean one's feet. After bathing, Egyptians would lather themselves in moisturizing creams and use soap made from a natural material known as natron. This helped them maintain the smoothness of their skin. The majority of Egyptian society, which consisted of people from lower social groups, took their baths in the Nile River itself. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Feel free to let us know what you thought about it, and if you liked the video, please leave us a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.